Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to welcome you to the regular meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission for January 26th, 2022. Director Zachary, can we have the roll call, please?
Certainly. Chair McGill?
Here.
Vice Chair Clark?
Here.
Commissioner Longstreet?
Here.
Commissioner Anander-LaBerge?
Here.
Commissioner Aldana?
Present.
Commissioner Feck?
Here.
And Commissioner Lesnar-Buxton.
You.
Thank you. And moving on to general business, I believe our first order of general business is to welcome our new commissioners, Robin Anander-LaBerge and Sebastian Aldana, starting 4-year terms beginning this month. I'd like to say welcome to both of you, and it's really great to be up to full speed with commissioners again, a full number. If you would like both of you to briefly introduce yourself, we'd love to hear from you. So in the order that I've got your names written down, how about Commissioner Anander-LaBerge? Just say hello, and then we'll have everybody else on the commission do a brief hello as well.
Sure. Thank you, Kathy. So my name is Robin Anander-LaBerge. I am a 4th generation native Santa Barbarian. I live on the east side in a house that my great-grandfather built after he immigrated from Sweden. And I'm really excited to be part of this. I'm pretty invested in the east side community and have young children. So I've got a very big interest in the parks and the recreation programs offered by the city.
Thank you. Commissioner Aldana.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Sebastian Aldana, a native Barbareño also, along with being an East Side resident. As they say, time flies. I've been advocating for park capital improvements and general improvements for about 15 years now. So time flies, and glad to be on the team and looking forward to a good year.
Well, we are delighted to have you both. So maybe if the rest of you would like to say a quick hello, I'm going to go in order that I see you on my screen, which is great because you don't know what that order is. Start with Commissioner Longstreet. Bibi.
Hi there, welcome to you both. I've worked with Sebastian probably the last 10 years at least on the Neighborhood Advisory Council and other issues about Parks and Rec. I've been on the commission 25 years. I'm in the last year of a 4-year term here, and it's near and dear to my heart. So if you want any historical perspective, I am probably the dinosaur you'll talk to.
Thank you, Bibi. Vice Chair Clark, Nicole.
Hi, welcome to you both. Sebastian, thanks for the work that you've already done for our community. I've been on the commission for maybe 6 years, I think, and I also have dogs. Sorry if you hear them right now. I'm a nurse and I raised at the hospital here. So I've been interested in Parks and Rec because I see the health benefits of outdoor recreation and programming for youth, teens, and adults. And I raised 2 kids and took great advantage of the Parks and Rec system here while they were small.
Great. Thanks, Nicole. And Commissioner Feck, Evelyn.
Hello, welcome you guys. My name's Evelyn. This is my 2nd year. I just completed my 1st year, and it's a lot of fun, enjoying learning a lot about the city. I also live on the east side of Santa Barbara. I've been here about 9 years. So welcome and excited to have you guys on board.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Lesnar-Buxton, Jacob. You are muted, Jacob. There you go.
Hey, I'm Jacob. Yes, the work I've been on the commission, I think, since 2015, 26, team I work is the Independent Living Resource Center. I live in the upper state area, and I love the park system for doing yoga. Thank you and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jacob. And then finally, I'm Kathy McGill. I am just starting my second term, so I'm starting my 5th year. I'm actually relatively new to Santa Barbara. I've only been here about a little bit less than 6 years, so I'm always amazed to hear about generations of residents that didn't grow up that way. I joined because I love the breadth of what the department does, and am passionate about outdoor space and having as many people have access to it as possible. And have really enjoyed my time and enjoyed working with everybody and look forward to working with you. So welcome and thank you. All right, with that, Director Zachary, do we have any changes to the agenda?
Chair McGill, no changes to the agenda.
Okay, great, thank you. And then we did have a couple of written communications. Is there anything other than what we received earlier today?
No, Chair McGill and Commissioners, you received one written communication related to an item on your agenda, a street tree item,
Right.
and 2 communications not related to items on your agenda. However, anticipate both those topics will be coming before the Commission in the near future as it relates to budget and programming for our parks and recreation facilities.
Okay, great. I think that answers a question that I have, which is that both the pickleball communication and the Veracruz communication, I think, warrant being agendized at some point as part of a commission discussion. But I'm hearing you say that that's going to happen.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. So that then brings us to public comment. Any member of the public may address the commission for up to 2 minutes on any subject within the jurisdiction of the commission that is not scheduled for a public discussion before the commission. Total amount of time for public comments will be 15 minutes. So do we have any raised hands, Ms. Lamb?
No, we do not.
Okay, thank you very much. And then next is Youth Council report. Now we do not have a Youth Council report this month because they have chosen to go to every other month reporting and reported last month. So bringing us to committee assignment reports. Again, I'm going to go in order that I see, and I have to do a little clicking. So I will start with Vice Chair Clark.
Hi, I did not attend a park board meeting this week, this month, because we did not have one, nor there's an integrated pest management committee meeting. However, I did attend the Street Tree Advisory Committee meeting, and we'll be discussing all the items that we spoke about in that meeting later on this agenda.
Thank you very much. You obviously have a very upset dog.
I don't know what's up.
Commissioner Longstreet.
I didn't attend any meetings, but I did watch the Historic Landmarks Commission review of the De La Guerra Plaza revitalization plan. It was disturbing, upsetting, and disappointing. The committee has met and this is basically for our new commissioners. That committee has met for 2.5 years and consists of 2 planning commissioners, 2 parks and recreation commissioners, 2 historic landmark commissioners, and 2 city council people, plus Dr. Ann Peterson from the Historic Trust. So the plan that was presented was a work in progress. It is a work in progress, but it also considered many aspects of De La Guerra Plaza, from everything from ADA accessibility to increased positive usage and how to do that, restrooms. And some of the comments, we had vetted those already, and it wasn't clear to the Historic Landmarks Commission, in my my opinion. Something as an example is the restrooms. One commissioner said we should not provide restrooms because of the issues we have with restrooms on State Street, and said that families should go to businesses, which is clearly unacceptable as a public entity. And the bathrooms that are proposed in the plan are, I think we're more familiar with them from a European design, where they're single use and they're cleaned in between. They're self-cleaning. So, you know, they prevent some of the problems. The lawn was a big issue. And I took offense in that our department was accused of neglecting it on purpose. We're in a drought. The lawns we maintain are turf for sports and for residents to use. So it was dismaying. It'll be interesting to see where we go from here, but it feels a little bit like the entire community is held hostage by the Historic Landmarks Commission at this point. So hopefully we will be able to work through this, but it's becoming more and more costly. So that's my report.
Thank you. And do you know when the next committee meeting is? I know I'm on the committee, but do you know when the next meeting might be?
No, I don't. I assume right now that staff is regrouping and digesting these comments and looking at the way forward. I mean, there's going to become funding issues as this goes back for redesign. There has to be more money budgeted for redesign. It isn't, you know, that alone can kill a project.
Yep.
So it brings up some very interesting points that we're suffering throughout the city. And as we look at revitalization downtown, you know, what that means, what historic period we're trying to recreate. With Dr. Peterson on the committee, I feel like really the Historic Trust was well represented, and we weren't completely out of bounds on this. So we'll see how that goes. And we'll, I'm sure, have a meeting in the next month or so, but I think it'll take staff a little time to regroup.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Commissioner Feck.
The Creeks Advisory Committee did not meet this month. The meeting was canceled.
Okay, great. Thanks. And Commissioner Lesnar Buxton.
I attended the youth council meeting. They're working on a youth speak out sometime in March or April about mental health issues, and they also are working on a new website and t-shirts. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. And so Vice Chair Clark and Longstreet reported on the committees that I'm on already. I guess the only thing to add to the Park Foundation is that City Councilor Eric Friedman has been named as the liaison to the Park Foundation from the City Council. Okay, and that brings us to commission and staff communications. Do we have anything to report, Director Zachary, there?
Chair McGill and commissioners, as you can imagine, heading into the holiday season and out of the holiday season, and given that we're still in this never-ending pandemic, we're getting a slow start to the year. However, we have lots of things to share with you coming up. So I thought I would just briefly, particularly since we have new commissioners and your agenda is on the lighter side, enjoy for today. Things that we'll be sharing with the commission and bringing to the commission coming forward. And first and foremost, I'm pleased to share with you that we are on the cusp of having an official ribbon cutting for the Bonet Park renovation project.
Yay.
That project has been far longer in the construction phase than any of us ever anticipated. However, and through the pandemic, it's been uncertain whether a ribbon cutting would be appropriate, but we're hopeful that by mid-February, that will be something that we can do outside and of course following appropriate protocols and really be able to celebrate not only the park improvements, but also the stormwater enhancements that you can't even see because they're underneath the turf. So looking forward to inviting you to that. Also, just if you're out and about around town, you will notice that the multimodal pathway is almost complete on Las Positas and Modoc Road. I will also be sharing with you an upcoming ribbon cutting for that because we're doing a joint ribbon cutting with Public Works because the Arroyo Burro Open Space Phase 2 restoration project is almost finished as well. And that includes a pedestrian bridge that connects the open space to Las Positas Road and the multimodal pathway, something that Commissioner Longstreet will remember that we've been working on for quite some time. So those are two fun things that are coming up that will be out of doors. And then also as we get into the new calendar year and we're moving toward the end of the fiscal year, we will be bringing forward to you updates on our capital projects. We will be bringing forward to you certain aspects of our recreation programming and park operations considerations. And then also the commission will be engaged in looking at our proposed budget at the April meeting. So anticipate that February, March, April will be busier months, and we look forward to both meeting with you, but also hopefully seeing you at one of our ribbon cutting events.
Thank you. I'm excited about the Las Positas and the top of Allen Road, the Arroyo Burro being finished. I mean, those are that is a favorite place of mine, so that will be great. All right, and I guess that takes us to ceremonial items. Do we have any service awards this month?
Chair McGill and members of the commission, yes. Interim City Administrator Rebecca Bjork recognized Liz Smith for 15 years of service yesterday. Liz is the Creeks Outreach Coordinator in the Creeks Division, and she started with the department as an administrative specialist and then moved into her position, I want to say about 10 years ago. So Liz has been integral to all of the outreach and marketing initiatives that the Creeks Division has undertaken for at least 10 years and also 15 as part of the larger Creeks Division team.
Great, thank you, and congratulations, Liz Smith, and well done. I mean, Creeks, I think, stands out for being really effective in getting the message out there and engaging the community in Creeks activities, educational activities, as well as just cleanups and just, you know, overall awareness and presence. So I appreciate the work you do very much.
I do too. I've really enjoyed the Creek Weeks over the last couple of years and the activities she has throughout the year, like Fantasy Rainfall. I think she makes learning about our environment and our creeks really fun. So kudos to Liz Smith. Much appreciated.
Thanks. Okay, the summary of council actions. Everybody got them in their package. Does anybody have any questions? I mean, I'm sure we'll hear more about the Los Baños emergency repairs when we get to the director's report.
I was just happy to hear, because what I had written down is it was to request an update on parks projects. Like Ms. Zachary said, I'll be really happy to get that, both all the planning, funding, and some, you know, proposed timelines.
Okay, so that sounds like there wasn't a question in there, was there?
That we're going to be getting those things.
Yeah, you were muted through part of that, so I didn't catch it all. But that's, I think I understand that wasn't just a comment. So that brings us to the approval of minutes for the regular meeting. Do we have a recommendation to waive the reading and approve the minutes from the December meeting? Do we have, would somebody like to make a motion?
Chair McGill and commissioners, just as a reminder, due to the Brown Act teleconference rules, we need to do a roll call vote.
Okay,
I believe our two new commissioners cannot act since they were not sitting on the commission. So we would need a majority of the 5 commissioners that were here.
okay, thank you. Actually, I had forgotten that. Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we waive the reading and approve the minutes from December 15th.
I second.
Okay, and then can we get a roll call from, I believe it's Ms. Lamb doing the roll calls?
I will do the roll call.
Okay, thanks, Jill.
So Chair McGill,
Aye.
Vice Chair Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Lesnar Buxton,
Aye.
Commissioner Longstreet,
Aye.
Commissioner Feck.
Aye.
Okay, so moved.
I just have a question.
Sure.
Should I and Robin at least abstain, being that or do we just stay quiet?
Good question. Let's go for that. So Commissioner Aldana,
I will abstain for not being part of the commission.
Commissioner Ananda LaBerge.
I abstain for not being part of the commission at that time.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, and good catch. Okay, now we will move on to our trees. And so I'll turn it over to Mr. Slack.
Good afternoon, Chair McGill and commissioners. Next slide, please. You can hear me okay? Thumbs up. Yeah, if we get an advanced slide, that would be great. The first Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation for review is the request to remove the jacaranda at 25 West Ortega Street. The applicant is requesting the removal of the jacaranda due to significant redevelopment of the property. At 25 West Ortega, they're redeveloping this the entire parcel in conjunction with 21 West Ortega. And as part of that, the parties have agreed to have a mutually shared driveway entrance. There's currently a driveway entrance just to the east of the jacaranda. And the two property owners, again, due to shared interest with ingress and egress to the property, have proposed to widen the driveway, essentially twice the width, which encroaches into the footprint of the existing jacaranda street tree. Okay, excellent, thank you. So they've, again, are proposing the removal of the existing jacaranda for redevelopment of the property, increasing the width of the driveway so that width of the driveway would be where the existing driveway is, just to the left of the street light, and encroaching again into the footprint of where the tree is towards the west. To mitigate the loss of the existing street tree, they were proposing to plant 3 new street trees, again to the west of this existing tree. They'll be redeveloping the sidewalks and putting in new tree wells, and propose 3 jacarandas to be replaced in lieu of the existing jacaranda. The committee reviewed the proposal, quickly noted that it was a reasonable development of the property. There was a kind of a comment about, unfortunately, with these fairly practical developments of properties, lots of times there's really nice trees involved, you know, in relation to the existing jacaranda. They reviewed the tree. The tree was in good condition, and you're still, Jill, we're still sharing screen. So the committee reviewed the tree, reviewed the proposal to replace the existing street tree with 3 new street trees. There was a little bit of question about size of tree wells and increasing of the new width of sidewalk and how big we could make those tree wells. But ultimately, there was consensus amongst the committee that this was a reasonable and practical development of the property, and that the 3 new jacarandas, which is a designated street tree, would ultimately offset the loss of the existing street tree, and made a recommendation to approve the project as proposed by the applicant.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Slack? Commissioner Aldana, yes.
How big will the new trees be?
Chair McGill and Commissioner Aldana, they're proposing to install 36-inch box replacement trees, which are pretty good size. If you're familiar with them, I would say they're probably going to be 8 to 10 feet in height, so a pretty immediate visual impact. The proposed tree walls are probably going to be about 4 foot in width and 6 feet in length, in perpendicular to the street. So we wouldn't want to go probably much larger than that, but they will be pretty good size once replaced.
And that's good. I'm glad to hear that it's going to be that big. And when I was looking at the picture, there was also a lamp to the east of the tree. So what's going to happen with that lamp? It's like a street light, pedestrian.
Yeah, it's a small street light.
Will that be replaced somewhere close by?
I would have to say yes, but I do not have the specifics of that. I would have to reach out to transportation staff to find out what the plan is for the street lighting in that specific area. But based on the site plan and the proposal, they will have to relocate that street light because that will be within the footprint of the new proposed driveway.
Got it. Okay. If you could just take a note that they make sure to move it, you know, that it doesn't get disposed, so to speak.
Can you all see the proper slide now?
We see a green and white slide that says 25 West Ortega Street.
Perfect. Okay, sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. Looks like Robin has a hand up.
Great, thank you. Oh yes, I see. Great, thank you, Commissioner Ananda and LaBerge.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner or Chair McGill. Following up with Commissioner Aldana, I identified that lamp as well and thought, well, it must have to be removed if the tree is going to be removed. But, you know, I could see potentially them not being able to get that permission and trying to work around the lamp still existing. There is no way to, I understand the site plan and what that plan is for the lamp before we approve the tree, is there?
Say the question again, I'm sorry.
There's no way to have access to review the site plan before we make a decision about the tree, is there?
Chair McGill and Commissioner Unander LaBerge, the site plan was in the packet. There was a landscape plan, essentially. There was no like demo or civil plans, but there was a landscape plan in the attachments for the application that did show the new proposed driveway.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm certainly from the perspective of what our role is to look at, sometimes we review landscape plans in general, but generally our role is to look at the trees and we really don't get involved with, say, the buildings and the hardscape and things like that.
Understood, but if they're going to remove the tree, then I think that the lamp should also go, but if they were going to leave the lamp, then I kind of want to argue for the tree.
Oh, yeah. Now, what is appropriate is to, if we do a conditional motion, we have in the past approved tree removal requests pending approval of the overall plans.
Okay, and I'm looking through the site plan and I don't see where it mentions anything about that shared space between the tree and the lamp. So that's why I'm asking, is that a definite plan of removal of that lamp, or is there potentially that leaving it there? So I would like to have, however we do this, conditioned on they both have to go.
Chair McGill and Commissioners, I think as Chair McGill referenced, commonly what's done is that the approval from the commission is conditional upon a project approval. One thing that we've really tried very hard to do early on is try to look at tree removal considerations, because we have had trouble in the past with projects getting too far through the review process through planning, and then they'll get approval for the driveway or something like that. And then after the fact, after the project's been completely approved, then they come looking for tree removal, which is very problematic. So we're starting to see projects really early on. If the project is successful, the light is literally within the proposed driveway, closer to where the new proposed driveway will be than the street tree. So they both will be removed if the project receives full approval and the project is built. So the commission could condition that no tree removal can take place until the project receives full project design approval through the planning department.
So if I could just add for the commission, this is a project that's going through design review. And once they get preliminary design review approval, they actually submit, if they haven't yet, to actually go through land development team. So a project like this will be reviewed by Public Works, Engineering, Transportation, Water Conservation, Solid Waste staff. It'll also be reviewed by Creeks Division staff for stormwater. A number of different staff groups will review and identify and or condition the location of any streetlights associated with this project. Based on the site plan they're showing, they will be rebuilding the entire sidewalk. And at that time, I think what I anticipate is Public Works Engineering will be looking at what the appropriate streetscape lighting would be. I cannot imagine, based on my experience with the city, that street light would remain in its current location. However, appropriate street lighting will be something that is achieved through the redevelopment of this property. That said, as a follow-up to what Mr. Slack mentioned, the commission can certainly condition removal of the tree upon, or retention of the tree until project construction. So in other words, sometimes it can take a number of years from going through planning and development before a project is actually under construction. And so it would be part of constructing the project, if that helps.
We have commonly done that, yes. Okay, any further questions?
Well, with that said, could the motion maker make that adjustment to the motion?
Yeah, we have a little bit further to go in the process, but yes, the motion maker can make that part of the motion. Yes,
Okay.
definitely. All right. If there are no further questions, I'd like to see if there's anybody from the public wanting to comment on this. Ms. Lem, do we have any raised hands for 25 West Ortega?
No, we do not.
Okay, great, thank you.
I can make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that this commission agree with the Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation to approve the removal of the jacaranda tree at 25 West Ortega, based on the condition that that tree be replaced with 3 jacarandas as proposed, and that the current jacaranda does not be removed until the project is ready to go forward with all approvals.
Excellent.
Okay, so we have a motion from Clark and a second from Longstreet. Any further discussion? Okay, Ms. Zachary, can we take a vote, please?
Yes, Chair McGill,
Aye.
Vice Chair Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Lesnar Buxton,
Aye.
Commissioner Feck,
Aye.
Commissioner Anander LaBerge,
Aye.
Commissioner Aldana,
Aye.
Commissioner Longstreet.
Yes.
I think I got everybody.
I think you did too. Okay, so passed. Yeah, we're getting used to the new rhythm. All right, so that moves on to West Mitchell-Torrena.
Chair McGill and Commissioners, the next Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation for review is the request to remove this is a street tree. It's a Chinese holly located at 1224 West Mitchell-Terena Street. This property has currently been through single family design board, and as part of the comprehensive property improvements, there was motivation to essentially remove and replace this existing Chinese holly. There's no proposed improvements to the driveway or curb and gutter. It purely was a decision that was made as the review process was undergoing. So in some situations where redevelopment of, say, the driveway may necessitate removal, the applicant just simply desires removal and replacement of the tree, essentially stating its poor condition. The committee reviewed the tree, the application, noted it was in essentially poor to fair health, did comment that the street particularly is devoid of large canopy shade trees, and that the street would benefit from a new tree if this tree was removed. After a little bit more discussion in regards to placement of a potential replacement tree, the committee made a recommendation to approve the removal of the Chinese holly on the condition that a new street tree be planted within the right-of-way of the property. So this is one of these unique examples where there's really no, what we would refer to as no fully improved right-of-way. So essentially there's no defined parkway and then sidewalk, all of the 1200 block of West Mitchell-Terena. And in addition to that, there's currently no designated street tree species for this block. So that's something that we will prioritize review with both the committee and the commission in terms of making a species designation for this block and for potential replanting in the future. So again, just to surmise, the Street Tree Advisory Committee made a recommendation to approve the removal of the existing Chinese holly on the condition that a new street tree be planted within the public right-of-way once a street tree designation has been determined for the 1200 block of West Mitchell-Terena.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, I have one. So assuming this is approved, the applicant could go ahead and remove the tree and then just not replant until the designation is made, so they don't have to wait for the designation. Would that be correct?
Chair McGill and commissioners, that is correct. We would be able to keep track of that, stay in contact. We also are planning on prioritizing the review of this specific section of West Mitchell-Terena for next month's Street Tree Advisory Committee. It's certainly possible that we may have a new designation well in advance of any construction related activities on the property.
Okay, great, thanks. Does anybody else have any questions? If not, can we see if there's anybody from the public that wishes to speak on this item? Do we have any raised
There
hands?
are no members of the public who wish to speak.
Okay, great, thank you. Any further discussion? Would anybody like to make a motion?
I will move that we concur with the Street Tree Advisory recommendation for 1224 West Mitchell-Terena to remove the Chinese holly and that it be replaced with a street tree to be designated. And this is for appropriate redevelopment of the property.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a Longstreet motion, Aldana second. Any further discussion? May we take a vote?
Chair McGill,
Aye.
Vice Chair Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Feck,
Aye.
Commissioner Lesnar Buxton,
Aye.
Commissioner Robin Ananda Laberge,
Aye.
Commissioner Aldana,
Aye.
Commissioner Longstreet. Commissioner Longstreet,
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so moved. And that brings us to the last one on State Street.
Chair McGill and Commissioners, the last Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation for review is the request to remove a Coast Live oak. This is also a street tree from the public right-of-way at 2409 State Street. The applicant listed multiple reasons for removal, damage to surrounding hardscape, the sidewalk, reference to paver damage in the parkway as well, and loss of limb, a couple limb failures, one that did strike the vehicle, actually the vehicle in the picture below here, and also continual issues with the California oakworm impacting the property and just creating lots of debris and sort of nuisance. The committee reviewed the application in discussion regarding the tree's condition, noted the tree was in fair health. If you were able to make a site visit, it's pretty obvious that the tree is pretty stressed right now. And that stress that we're seeing is from the California oak moth. We've had a pretty wild year with the California oak moth. Every so many years, there's no real set number. Every 3 to 5 years on average, we have a very large population. And it tends to cause widespread defoliation of both the native oaks and the non-native oaks, such as holly oaks and cork oaks that we have in our urban forest. And so again, the committee noted the tree was in fair health. The hardscape damage, as is usually consistent with committee review, was determined to be repairable without causing detrimental damage to the street tree. There was general consensus amongst the committee members regarding the need for just some general maintenance of pruning of the canopy. There was discussion with the applicant regarding pruning and also with staff. And staff does have plans, probably within the next calendar year, to do comprehensive pruning on State Street. It's a street that we don't prune often because a lot of the oaks are very mature, very old, and pruning is very stressful for a tree. And pruning a tree that's already in stress is extremely stressful, and the amount of defoliation that's exhibited both in this tree and all of the trees on State Street really kind of forced staff to kind of take a pause in terms of maintenance and allow the trees to try to recover. There was some additional discussion regarding the pavers in the parkway and their impact on the tree. The pavers aren't cemented in, so there is some ability for some water to infiltrate there. In other situations where you have impermeable parkway, it's much more problematic for the tree. They've had damage to their paver walkway as well, but they've actually repaired that. Ultimately, after review, the committee determined the tree was of value and made a recommendation to deny the request for the Coast Live Oak at 2409 State Street.
Thank you. I'll open it up for questions.
I had a couple things I wanted to say from first, Mr. Slack, the pavers aren't up to municipal code, correct? Homeowners aren't allowed to put pavers into the tree walls, is that right?
Chair McGill and Commissioner Clark, pavers, historically, we've not taken, sorry, a technical glitch. Historically, if pavers allow for water infiltration, it's something that we've not aggressively tackled due to resource limitations within the forestry program. However, adjacent property owners are responsible for parkway maintenance. So in this situation, the pavers are not the responsibility of the city, they're the responsibility of the adjacent property owner. Based on site inspections, these have been here for an extremely long period of time. And they were here actually before the applicants moved into this property by their own admission. And I don't think that it's causing any real significant issues for the street tree. So it's not something that we would really want to aggressively tackle. Now, in other situations where somebody's paving in their entire parkway with concrete, especially when you're talking about encroaching into the tree's root zone, those are situations that we do try to prevent if possible, because that's much more damaging to the tree. And other situations, their reference to the pavers being uplifted, something like a gravel or DG may be a little bit more flexible in terms of there not being, disturbances or significant disturbances within the parkway. But based on the Santa Barbara Municipal Code 15.20.090, the parkway maintenance, including the pavers or whatever material in the parkway, is the adjacent property owner responsibility. But I don't think that in this specific situation, the pavers are of really any detriment to the street trees' health and function.
Right. I guess I was looking at from the perspective of, I wanted to make sure that the newer commissioners knew that disruption to hardscape is not like a valid reason for removing trees, especially if that hardscape is not like technically.
Chair McGill and commissioners, yeah, just to take a step back and talk about hardscape in general, and especially when we're talking about the sidewalk and the curb and gutter, it's I think the city's goal comprehensively that we try to do everything in our power that makes practical sense for tree retention when possible. So our goal is tree preservation. The streets department, transportation department are big allies. They assist us tremendously in making hardscape repairs, and we can do and utilize different techniques such as ramping or root pruning that allows us to keep street trees around for a significantly longer amount of time. Reason why we do that is big trees do more good stuff for us, more environmental work. So our ability to retain them prolongs their capturing of carbon, capturing of stormwater, and just providing good benefits to the community. So in most situations, with hardscape disruption, we're able to come up with a functional solution that allows for repair that doesn't require removal of the tree. That does not always happen. Sometimes trees have to be removed and replaced, but it's our goal if possible, and if it makes reasonable practical sense, for tree preservation in situations where hardscapes are disrupted.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? So one of the things that the applicant stated is that they cannot, because it's city property, they can't do anything themselves. If the applicant were to choose to remove the pavers and put in, say, gravel or DG, is that something they can do?
Chair McGill and commissioners, absolutely. That's certainly a conversation that we'll have with the applicant after the meeting. A lot of people in town, I think, are of the opinion that the public right-of-way is city property, and in many cases it is. But again, the municipal code that pertains to street tree planting and also parkway maintenance places the maintenance responsibility on the adjacent property owner. So even though it is public right-of-way, they're still responsible for maintenance. I think moving towards something that increases permeability and allows for even more water and oxygen to enter the parkway and maybe not create these disturbances that they've referenced, these hard uplifts, would be a benefit to everybody in the long run. And they certainly could do that, and we'd be happy to work with them on that.
I had another question, Mr. Slack, and I'm not suggesting by any means that this is the right way to go, or the owners of the house or the applicant should take on this burden or responsibility. But have you ever had situations in which an applicant, had an issue with one of our street trees and wasn't happy with the city's timeline for pruning and maintenance, and took it upon themselves, like with your guidance, to have a tree pruned? Does that ever happen?
Chair McGill and commissioners, it happens often, and we are always open to exploring that as a possibility. We did have that discussion with the applicant during the committee discussions at the Street Tree Advisory Committee. And so essentially the permit process, anytime that somebody wants to prune their tree more frequently, or in the case where you reference, we're unable to get to it in a timeline that is preferable for them, they can get a permit from us to have a licensed tree care company prune the tree. The work is done at the homeowner's cost, but the permit is no fee. So there's no fees associated with the permit. We essentially just need a few things on file with whoever the tree care company is that's doing the work, write up some general specifications, and we're always happy to do that. And we do give out lots of permits on an annual basis to residents in town.
Great.
I see a raised hand from Commissioner Ananda LaBerge.
Thank you, Chair McGill. I note that the homeowners are considering the worms to be a pest, a hazard. And that's one of the reasons that they're requesting the removal is because of the worms dropping down. Are the oak worms, the California oak worms, hazardous? Are they poisonous? Do they do any harm to people, or are they just a nuisance?
Chair McGill and Commissioner Unander LaBerge, the California oakworm is mostly just an icky creature. There's really no significant issues with it. It's not toxic that I'm aware of. There may be some light toxicity if a pet were to ingest, you know, like dozens or hundreds of them. I don't have that information, but based on literature, there's no issue with them. You know, they do. There's significant populations in certain years, and they'll get on the eaves of the home and any place where they can kind of find shelter. And you know, the moths come out in the evening and are fluttering around, and the larvae, the caterpillars, will kind of spool down from the trees, and it can make quite a bit of mess, and it does in some situations cause defoliation to the tree. It is worth noting that, you know, they call it the California oakworm. It is a native pest. So it's something that especially the coast live oaks, are native trees, are used to dealing with. And it rarely, if ever, requires treatment. Treatment's very costly and very ineffective as well. If you were managing a tree, a single tree on a property, it's somewhat manageable and may make sense, but on a large scale, when you have hundreds of these trees in town, it's just simply not a feasible strategy for treatment either.
Okay. Commissioner Aldana, I see your hand.
Yes. Yes, regarding the worms and the moths, the larvae, I actually feel their pain because I have an oak tree where I live, right in the front. It's just part of nature, for lack of a better term. And but can we maybe, or can you, I should say, Parks and Rec Department, go over there and wash it? You know, because I believe pressure washing, you know, with soap and water is about the best that can be done.
Chair McGill and Commissioner Aldana, we typically don't do that. The reason why we don't do that as a program is because the larvae, the little caterpillars, are really efficient at crawling. So even if they're displaced from the tree, more times than not, they're able to make it back to the tree. So the spraying of smaller insects like an aphid, that's a really poor crawler and doesn't fly, that's a very effective strategy. But the displacement of the larvae from the California oakworm, they're able to travel pretty great distances, so they're able to get back onto the tree. So we've historically never tried dislodging them from the canopy, knowing that they'll just make their way back to the tree.
They're really effective little critters.
And I do have a couple other questions, because I did go over there and assess the property, and I did notice you know, some uprooting and some trip hazards. As far as having Public Works go over there and assess and to see how they can fix the situation, because they've been there. They already made a ramp. You can see where that blacktop ramp is. They've already grinded down the sidewalk where the uprooting was, but now I would say it's time to do it properly, you know. So can we make any request to Public Works to go and assess? And to the left of the tree, if you're facing the tree, this is just my assessment. You know, the water meter is right next to the tree base, along with, I believe it's the gas. I would think at some point the roots could push that and cause a problem. I think it seems to me that the utilities should be moved at a little distance on the opposite side, you know, just an observation.
Chair McGill and Commissioner Aldana, in relation to the sidewalk displacement, pretty common, we try to make it standard operating procedure with applications for street tree removal where there does involve hardscape disruption. what we do is we send a notice to the streets work group and have them create an inspection request. They'll then go out, evaluate the sidewalk, and make a determination on the extent of repairs. That goes into the system for repair at some point in the near future. So we have reached out to the streets department to have an inspection request. And again, they'll send an inspector out, they'll look at the sidewalk in full scope and make a determination about what method of repair makes the most sense, how many panels will be replaced, and then just get it into the queue for repair in the future. In relation to the utilities, we do have examples of very large street trees next to, gas water meters. There was no reference to any historical problems, at least from the current homeowners, with infrastructure damage with the water and gas utilities. Mm-hmm. For the most part, we would hope to not see anything if we haven't had anything. When you're that close to a tree of this age, there's very little, if any, root growth going on that close to the base of the tree. The roots, actually the primary roots, these big roots that kind of come off from the flare of the tree, start to like lignify or harden, and they eventually stop growing in diameter. So it's usually that growth in diameter that creates pressure that can dislodge a water meter line or a gas line. In this situation, with no reference to any recent damage, we would be optimistic that we wouldn't see any in the immediate future. And we typically try not to relocate utilities unless there is an existing issue that necessitates the relocation just due to the cost of it.
Okay, very good. And my last question, once again, how soon will they be able to get their tree properly pruned?
Chair McGill and Commissioner Aldana, we anticipate within the next calendar year of doing full tree maintenance on State Street. So from Mission to Constance, it's all large, predominantly large coast live oak trees. And that's something that we have in sort of our work plan goals to have accomplished. If the applicant desires to expedite the pruning, it's entirely up to them. They could have the tree pruned within the next couple of weeks if they wanted to, but our commitment is within the next calendar year.
And that would equal how many months, just approximately?
Chair McGill and Commissioner Aldana, when you say how many months, do you mean in terms of our scope of work and maintenance, or?
Well, you say within the next calendar year. So the next one, is that starting in July?
Oh, I'm saying, so yeah, thank you for the clarification. Essentially 12 months. Within a 12-month period from our conversation, the tree will be pruned.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Clark, I see your hand.
I was just thinking it would, how do I unraise me? Oh, it's unraised. I was thinking it would be really helpful if between now and the next meeting, we could supply the new commissioners with the findings for setback tree removal. I know these are not setback trees. And I don't know if you guys, Robin and Sebastian, know that for setback trees, you have to meet findings for removal that are in the municipal code. And with street trees, you do not. But when we're considering the removal of a street tree, it's always good to look at the findings that we recommend to make for removing a setback tree.
So yeah, just for the commission's benefit, our new commissioners do have that information.
Oh, good. Okay.
So the other thing I would like to,
if I could just add really quickly, if you don't mind, Chair McGill, I think one of the things that, Mr. Slack is giving you a calendar year. We have 27,000 street trees and about $900,000 a year for street trees. So that works out to about $30 a tree. So when you think of when he says within the calendar year, the focus of the forestry division is to look at efficiencies and effectiveness in applying our street tree revenues, resources, where they can be most efficiently used. And so rather than sort of coming up with an answer, that's why you're getting that answer, is it's a priority for this next year, which is a good thing. I can't remember how many trees we have between Mission and Constance, but it's probably more than any of us think. Once you start going out and counting trees, it can be quite surprising how many that are out there. And so the staff team works together to determine, when and what steps they need to take in order to do a full pruning along this length of the street.
Thanks, Jill. I guess I would also like to recommend to the new commissioners a really great overview of the urban forest program was presented. I think it was the November meeting, wasn't it, Nathan, where you presented your overview? And so there would be a written document there, and then also the tape. You could go back and look at the tape of the presentation. It's a good introduction and summary of the work that's being done.
Will do.
It is the November meeting, right? Am I remembering that right? Yep.
Chair McGill and Commissioners, I believe that's correct. So I think so. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So yeah, that presentation consisted of essentially what the street tree designation list is, which is a planning tool for planting of street trees on all of the streets in town, and why we make decisions in regards to changing them. And it's something that we'll see more and more. And certainly the new commissioners will see lots of them in the coming year.
Yeah, I mean, it's not addressing necessarily removal applications, but it really gives a sense of what the kind of the overarching philosophy and approaches are of the work that you do. Commissioner Feck.
Yes, thank you. So I just kind of wanted to maybe put in another point of view. I mean, I read through the comments from the homeowners, and you can definitely get the stressed tone coming from them. And I'm just kind of trying to put myself in their shoes. And obviously I know that the tree is important for that street, but also just thinking about it from like their perspective of living and having these problems and feeling very, kind of in a stressful situation at a place that you live. And so I think also like trying to take into account like their situation. So like some things that just come to mind is just perhaps like trying to expedite their personal permit process, because if they've already been living with this situation for 9 years, saying, oh, like it'll get fixed within the year that's a kind of a long time for somebody to wait. But then you're kind of in a rock and a hard place, because now instead of I either have to wait a whole year, or I have to like take money out of my own budget to fix a street tree that I'm told that I can't do anything about. So it's kind of it feels a little bit like a lose-lose situation for the homeowner. And I think when we think about where we live, we want to be comfortable in our own space, especially if you have like personal property that you're parking your car, you've got, your dogs or whatever that, you're responsible for in your home. So obviously, if it's coming out of their own pocket, that can be a huge expense for people that they may or may not be, kind of a random expense that maybe somebody wasn't, they're kind of like forced to pay for a tree that they don't necessarily even want. So I don't know, I'm just kind of thinking like of ways that we could work with them either to expedite the permitting process, or maybe in the future thinking of some sort of like reimbursement program we can have for homeowners, since the city is short-staffed and we're not able to act as quickly as maybe we want to. Because I read through all their things, and I definitely have sympathy for the homeowner and what they're going through, and I don't want us to ignore that.
Okay, thank you. So, and then I see I've got 2 more raised hands. I'm going to go. We're still in questions, so I will go with Commissioner Longstreet first, followed by Vice Chair Clark.
As we look at this and the issues that come up, this tree is a tree that belongs to the city of Santa Barbara, and that means it belongs to the residents of the city of Santa Barbara. And with global warming and all the things we have, and the value of this tree, this is one tree out of probably 50 in that block. If we start taking these out, we're going to have no trees in that block. And not everyone feels the same way about trees as those of us who sit here on this commission. And part of our job is to protect the urban forest over and above all else. I sometimes struggle with it in a setback tree, but a street tree is a whole different matter. The issues if we want to really get down to it, the parking spot in the street is not your personal parking spot. It's a public right of way. There's a whole bunch of issues involved in here, and I think we have gotten way off track with it. We have a tree, and we also have to remember the people who make these recommendations to us are arborists. Our Street Tree Advisory Committee are arborists. And this is an issue that, are we willing to look at taking out more than one of these trees on State Street once it starts? It's a big issue. And I think that's what I keep in the forefront of my mind is our urban forest and the benefits to our entire community and what we're facing in the future. We are not about utilities or streetlights or any of that. Those are things that are out of our purview. So it's really important for us to stay be reasonable about our looking at tree removals, but to remember our first line is to protect our urban forest.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Vice Chair Clark, and then I'm going to see if there's anyone for public comment.
So my hand was raised because I pretty much wanted to say what BP said more eloquently than I could, but I do want to say that I do consider the needs of the property owners. I do, but just as much as I want them to be comfortable in their space, I want everybody else to be comfortable in their space. And that means walking through a city with trees, riding their bike through a city with trees, being protected from the effects of global warming. It's like we all need to be comfortable in our space. And that tree is a part of our space. As long as we can avoid setting an avoidable precedent, we need to. And I agree with everything that Commissioner Longstreet said. So
okay, thank you. I would like to see if there's anyone who wants to speak from the public that wants to speak on this.
There is no one from the public who wishes to speak.
Okay, great. Well, in that case, I'll open up for discussion, and I have not participated in the discussion to now, so now it's my turn. And I guess I will, I do have a question which I didn't ask, which was the applicant has stated both in the follow-up letter and in the application that the tree is not healthy and is saying it's not healthy. And yet the STAC report says that the tree is in reasonable health. And and so I'd like some clarification on the state of health. And if it is related, if the stress of the tree is related to the oakworm, what is the recovery? I mean, will it recover? Definitely, maybe. So there's the question. And then the comment piece of it is that the uplift, I walked basically 2.5 blocks and looked at all of the street, looked at the sidewalk and all of the trees on over a 2.5 block period when I looked at it. And my sense of the uplift is that there was an unusual amount of uplift around their driveway, on the inside of the driveway compared to the other driveways. The sidewalks didn't look unusually uplifted, I guess I would say, from what I would see elsewhere in the city. And that's just a comment. And the pavers definitely were uplifted, which was why I asked the question about them removing them. But I would be curious about the discrepancy in the comments on the health.
Chair McGill and commissioners, I think that the committee was being conservative in their assessment on the tree's health. The oak moth, as we talked about earlier, can cause complete defoliation. So the little larvae, the little caterpillars, they eat the leaves. And when the population's big enough, they literally can eat every leaf on the tree, or to the point where the tree will abscise remaining leaves just as a defense mechanism. So I think when you go out and look at a tree that's either currently or recently had a heavy infestation of oak moth, you need to be a little conservative in your assessment of its health. I think that based on the amount of canopy that's present and just the general visual inspection of the tree, saying it's in fair health is just conservative. I think when we talk about something that's not in good health, we're talking about significant canopy decline, lots of dead wood in the canopy, maybe presence of cavities or columns of decay, fruiting bodies, things that we associate with like pronounced decline in the tree. And none of those things really were super visible. And as Commissioner Longstreet pointed out, there's 3 arborists on the committee. So they have a wealth of experience evaluating trees. And just from a visual inspection, looking at the canopy, you can tell that the canopy's in decent shape. There aren't those things, those clear indicators, lots of dead wood, dieback that we would see in a tree that we would say is in a state of decline or potentially even advanced decline. Now, in relation to the tree's chance of recovery, we would expect it to recover. It typically can take 3 to 6 months. Pretty soon you do start seeing new leaves. It is a very stressful event, so it takes tremendous amounts of energy reserves from within the tree to push all that new growth out. But trees need leaves for the creation of energy, so it's also a very necessary thing for them to expedite the refoliation throughout the canopy. Consecutive events of defoliation can potentially, sort of tip the scale to where you might get into a decline scenario where the tree's really just exhausted its energy resources. In this specific instance, based on both staff and the committee's review, they did not think that that's possible right now. There's always the chance that something could happen even in the short term, but it's really just kind of a wait and see based on how the tree responds from the oak worm infestation.
Okay, so just to clarify then, what I'm hearing you say is that the applicant has written that the tree is in really bad health and is saying it's in bad health, and the stack is disagreeing.
Chair McGill and Commissioners, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Okay, is there any further discussion? I think, we've had a fair airing of concerns and views and questions. If there is no further discussion, I'm prepared to make a motion. And the motion I'm prepared to make is that we concur with the recommendation to deny the tree removal request on 2409 State Street.
Second.
Sorry.
Okay, Phoebe got there first.
I was just gonna say if we could add just to the motion of like maybe helping to guide the homeowners with like the permitting process to be able to do the maintenance on their own. I know it's written in the committee recommendations, but maybe just like re-emphasizing that way, we can kind of support them and getting the maintenance done maybe quicker if they'd like on the tree.
I'm okay. How would we rephrase that? So deny the
Chair. I think it's a given. Mr. Slack does that. He will talk to the homeowner about this decision.
Yeah, I think that's implicit. Not even implicit. I think that is very much part of the conversation that follows.
Okay,
so
if it is, that's great. I just want to make sure. Okay,
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I see nodding from Mr. Slack. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. If there's no additional discussion, going once, going twice, can we get a vote?
Chair McGill.
Aye.
Vice Chair Clark.
Aye.
Commissioner Longstreet.
Yes.
Commissioner Aldana.
Yes.
Commissioner Feck.
Aye.
Commissioner Anander Laberge.
Aye.
Commissioner Lesnar Buxton.
Aye.
Okay, good discussion, so moved.
All right. And I'll just need a minute to switch back to the other slideshow.
Okay, so as Caitlin moves back, we are going to switch over to the director's report. Now I can see everybody.
So, Chair McGill and commissioners, I think, there we go. Thank you, Caitlin.
Sure. And gosh, let me just find my controls here. Huh. Okay. Are you seeing the street tree
Yes.
Yes.
slide? And how do I advance this? Okay, here we go.
Great. So Chair McGill and commissioners, and for our new commissioners, we like to give you an update on a few items every month. As I said earlier, it's been a little quiet because of the holidays and our sort of transition into the new year. However, we have two major things to share with you because they are near and dear to many members of our community and define a lot of our more historic park space as well as prime recreation opportunity. The first is every year we do an annual pruning at the AC Postel Rose Garden. We have 1,600 roses in this garden and they represent over 200 varieties. So each year around the time, all roses should be pruned. We host a volunteer event. And we've done that for 40 years. And we've done it in collaboration with the Rose Society, many other community volunteers. And then also we are fortunate that Dan Bufano, who's a rosarian, gives tutorials for people who've never pruned a rose or want to brush up on their skills. This year we had a fantastic turnout. Not only was it a beautiful day, the day before wasn't so great, so that was a bit worrisome, but it was sunny, it was just the right kind of temperature, and we had 105 people sign in to participate in the event. We had, I think, 6 staff who also staffed the event. I was there for 3 hours and we were already far further along in our rose pruning activities than I had ever seen before in my entire career in the Parks and Recreation Department. So this is really an acknowledgement to both the volunteers that came out, but then also to the Parks Division staff that organized the event. I would like to add that our Parks Division staff, in between managing everything under COVID, spent a good deal of time reaching out to people who were prior volunteers, encouraging them to come out, and then also at the event, reaching out to people that showed up and asking them if they'd like to come back and volunteer more during the year. So it was a huge success. In short order, the roses will be blooming again, and you can go out to the Mission Historical Park, which is where the Rose Garden is located, and enjoy them for another season and another year. And then the next thing to report to you is Los Baños, which is actually the 3rd pool in the location that we have down at the waterfront. It was built in 1939. It is 7 lanes, 50-meter pool, and it's the city's only year-round public pool. So it is well loved by students, by adults, by youth, by casual swimmers who come in and do lap swim. And it also requires a lot of maintenance. And so generally, we've been doing maintenance during the holiday closure, since that's a quieter time for almost everyone, as well as school being out of session. And it gives us the opportunity to go in and make improvements without adversely affecting the swim practice and the swim programs that occur throughout the year. So this year we actually had a bit of a longer closure because we had unexpected need to address our filters, as well as replace our pool pumps and undertake additional activities. You noticed in your agenda that we had an emergency purchase order get approved after the fact. With council, we do have a process in our purchasing rules that allow us to issue an emergency purchase order and then receive approval after the fact. We did this because we had our catastrophic failure right before the holiday and there wasn't time to go to council. And we also knew that if we jumped right on it, it was feasible that most of the work could get done during that closure and we wouldn't have to close the pool a second time. And so that was what was achieved. So there are staff behind all these closures. They didn't all get to go home and enjoy the holiday closure like everybody else, but we had 135 staff hours dedicated and we invested another $82,000 in the pool, which is going to be well received. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about these two activities.
I don't have any questions, but I would like to, extend thanks to staff that worked on both of these annual and annually very important events. It's always a shock.
Yeah, our aquatics team is a tight knit team, and they really pulled all of this together, including recreation manager Rich Hanna, Tony Scholl, who's the supervisor, and other staff on the team.
Yeah, super job as usual. Yeah. It's always a shock when you first go to the rose garden and don't see the roses after, because we're so spoiled by that garden. But they always come back bigger and better than ever. Ms. Longstreet.
Yeah, and we are so blessed to have Dan Buffano help out at the Rose Garden. I know, he is world renowned, and that he comes and does that with us is truly an honor, and we're very lucky. But to staff, Los Baños is a jewel, but boy, it's something I think we need to be aware of how fragile it is.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. And go do a quick flip, make sure there's no other, I don't see any other raised hands. Okay. Thank you. And let's see. So that takes us to old business. I do not believe we have any old business. And then our final is the annual advisory committee liaison appointments for our new commissioners. Basically, we are all assigned to the various committees and subcommittees that are associated with Parks and Recreation. And at this time every year, we just go through it and fill any vacancies that might have arisen and make sure that everybody is happy with their assignments, or if somebody would like a change. So that's really where we're going. So we have 2 vacancies. One is Arts and Crafts and one is the Golf Committee. So I guess I would start with
I would also, the nature of the Neighborhood Advisory Council has completely changed. There's not a lot of Parks and Rec focus, though we still have a liaison, and I would be willing to share that position or let someone else go for that position.
Okay. All right. So are you requesting to leave, or are you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we have 3 vacancies because, BB serves on plenty of commissions. So we have Arts and Crafts, Neighborhood Advisory, and Golf.
And there may be that there are other committees or that others are willing to want to share, that they want to move around, or they want to add a second one too.
Yeah. So I'll say, I'm happy where I'm at, so I don't need to make any changes for myself.
I'm pretty happy where I'm at right now too. It works well with my schedule and my interests.
Yeah.
I'm happy as well, but if anyone is interested in Creeks and wants to be like a second or wants to sit in the meetings, I'm fine with that as well.
Okay. Commissioner Aldana, Sebastian.
Yes. Well, I'm a Neighborhood Advisory Council member. I can report to the group, what's going on. So it would be easy for me to be the liaison, being that I'm already there.
Sold.
I don't see anybody lining up. So.
No, that makes sense. Really, you're there anyways. Yeah.
And then also, just like right now with the Creeks or any other meeting, even though there is a liaison, can one attend? Providing that there's not a quorum. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, Commissioner, Chair McGill and commissioners, you can attend. And as a member of the public, of course, and if you or the commissioners wanted a backup, you could certainly attend on behalf of the commission as well.
Mhm. Okay, as far as myself with the creeks and arts and craft, I would like to be a alternative. Not, I don't
Okay.
want to be the main one. On the Neighborhood Advisory Council, I'll be the main liaison. On creeks and arts and craft, I'll be alternative.
Okay, that you're loading yourself up. Let's see, Commissioner Ananda LaBerge, I see your hand.
I love the arts and crafts show, so I would love to be the liaison to that.
Oh, okay. I think you're sold.
Do you love golf too?
No, I don't golf. So I'm like, anything but golf, please.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering, and Jill, you and I talked about this, if that's one that we could probably safely leave vacant for a little while, I would, given that it's kind of self-managed.
Chair McGill and commissioners, there is an active golf advisory committee and staff actively works with Corsco. However, it could be that through your budget process and other presentations, you're given updates on what's going on at the golf course.
I would do golf.
Okay,
Take
BB,
one for the team.
you got golf.
Well, it does interest me, and it's an important asset that we have in Parks and Rec. And so I know they run smoothly. They don't need a lot. And that's probably about as much as I know about it. So there you go.
That's great. Thank you, Bibi. The Golf Advisory Committee has been meeting essentially every other month as well. So you'll find that the commitment is half of what it was initially, given that we still meet virtually. But we do have a lot of things going on at the golf course.
Okay, I think we're there. So we've got Commissioner Ananda LaBerge in Arts and Crafts, and Commissioner Aldana, do you want to be an alternate there?
No, I think I got 3. So
I think that's yeah, okay. Then Creeks, we got Commissioner Feck with Aldana as a alternate, keeping De La Guerra the same, Longstreet in golf, keeping IPM the same, Aldana in Advisory Council, Park the same, the Sea Level the same, Street Tree the same, and Youth Council the same. And I believe that is it. And I think that's the end of the agenda, is it not? Yes, it is. Okay. Well,
Adjourn the meeting whenever you like.
yeah, I think we are ready to adjourn the meeting, and welcome again to our new members, and welcome back everybody to the first meeting of 2022, and we will see you next month.
Thank you.
Meeting
guys.
is adjourned.
Bye, guys.